Hi there, my name is Joshua Smith and I am an interior designer based on the East Coast and the West Coast. The way that I actually got into interior design is I grew up in a family where, home was so important and so many of our childhood memories centered and catered around the home, and mom really took pride in how she cared for our home. And so there was always that kind of like seed planted. But growing up in a small country town in Texas back in the 80s, it wasn't the most friendly place for a gay kid like me. Not even having the language for what that was at the time, and growing up Southern Baptist. And so fast forward to 18 years old and, having this really sense and this feeling that like, I don't belong and that God doesn't love me. And so I don't matter, which basically that sent me into this detour into darkness, as I like to call this period of years, which ultimately led to homelessness. And I think it was during that time where I really had a different perspective about, what home meant, more than just a shelter or a dwelling place, but a place where we really get to nurture ourselves and inspire our minds and connect to our loved ones. And so when I finally made the decision in like my early 20s to say enough is enough, I've got to redirect the course of my life. And I did. I got into real estate and loved selling real estate. It was such a great spot for me. And I loved getting to see all the homes and how people decorated. And then shortly thereafter, I found myself and my clients, they would say, well, hey, what do you think about this paint color? And what do you think about this? And if we do this renovation, what do you think? And then when I bought my own first place, I had to do a gut renovation, knew nothing about it. So I just went and got a bunch of design books. And I started reading and looking at all of these design books and reading all these things designers had to say. Something within me lit up. And I was like, oh my God, I love this. And so through the course of that project, I completely fell in love. My heart started to sing, and I knew this was what I was supposed to do. So I literally sold everything I owned, moved to New York City, went back to school to study interior design at the New York School of Interior Design. I would say when it comes to my typical client, it has kind of changed over the years. So I started my work with Stephen Gambrell, which I got amazing training foundation. I can't be more grateful for my time that I spent there. And then when I went off on my own, I was kind of just grasping at whatever, still trying to figure out my voice, kind of my brand and my aesthetic. But what I realized over the course of those first couple of years is that my philosophy was not so much about what is my look that I want to impart onto a client's home, but more about helping the client uncover who they are, how they want to live, and how can I help them translate that into their home. And so I think probably one of my superpowers is, like, if you look at my website and my portfolio, you'll notice that I work in a wide vernacular of design aesthetics. So you'll see a country house in Vermont, and you'll see a mid-century modern in Palm Springs, and you'll see a pre-war apartment in New York City to, a family home farmhouse in Rye, New York. So what I love about that is that it gives me a chance to really listen to the architecture of the space and let it dictate what it wants to be, but also really bringing the clients into the process. This is Mabel, by the way. You'll see her bopping in and out. She runs the show around here, so she'll let me know when I'm on task and when I'm not. But no, I think when it comes to clients, it's been very interesting. So I really did start very locally in New York City. And the great thing about New York City is people come there and then they leave there and then they get transferred. And my whole business has been based on referral, which has really been amazing. And I think is one of the things that I'm most proud about is many of my clients have been with me for 10 years. I've done, their first home, then I've done the home when they've had a couple of kids, then I've done the home when the kids grew up. And probably the most recent years is I kind of came out of the spiritual closet, you could say. I was doing meditation and prayer, 20 years ago. That was a really instrumental part of helping me get out of my dark period. And, probably 6 years ago, I was trying to figure out how to bring these two loves together. So I really started to talk a lot more about wellness and the impact of wellness in the home and the neuroscience and the neuroaesthetics and the studies being done about how our environments impact our mental health and our well-being. And so I think now I'm also starting to draw in people from that perspective. And of course, then sustainability is a big part of what I believe in and what I talk about. And so people interested in that, I think, are also finding me that way. I always say to people, like, your home is your stressor or your sanctuary, but it can't be both. And I used to always say that, but now in the past couple of years, the science that has been coming and the research that's being done since COVID specifically has shown that, when we're in spaces that we feel calm and are peaceful, or when we open that door and we come in and we say, feels good to be home, that actually is a release of positive feel-good hormones in the brain that then rush through the body that give you that sense of relaxation and calm. So what we've kind of always intuitively known, now we actually have science that backs up why that is. And in the reverse, if you walk in and the house is a mess and things haven't been done and projects haven't been touched and you haven't gotten to that room and you haven't gotten to that room and your home is stressing you out, well, then when you walk in, more cortisol is being pumped through the body, which is those stress hormones, which then don't make you feel as good. So we've had this whole body, mind, spirit conversation for a long time, and I'm so excited that the environment is now really being a part of that equation, because it is a super important part of that equation. We're really starting to scratch the surface of the sustainability aspect within the home industry. The fashion industry, of course, addressed this a little bit ago, and we're really starting to get into it. And I think as we ask more questions from our suppliers and our vendors to say, like, where is this from? Who is making this? How is this made? It's our responsibility to sort of really ask these questions, because it's like our clients don't even know what to ask. So it's our responsibility to inform them. Like, for example, I had this client and she said, my son has terrible asthma. What can we do? And of course, knowing about off gases and furniture and knowing about, various things in different materials is super important for us to know those things so that we can help our clients live happy, healthier lives at home. What I am seeing, and then what I am loving is, and I don't know if this is just me, but I'm really paying attention and I've been doing it a lot, but is fully reupholstered furniture, meaning no legs show. So like even the chair legs are fully upholstered. I'm actually looking at dining room chairs that I have now, and they're kind of barrel backed and they've got kind of square legs and a thing in the back, but they're fully reupholstered. And what I love about that is that it's bringing this extra layer of softness into a space where this structure meets the floor. So I've done that recently in a few projects and I've just been so thrilled how it's been coming out. But I'm noticing as I'm sourcing, I'm finding a lot more things that are fully reupholstered. I have a fully virtual design office, meaning I've got an employee in North Carolina, I've got one in Jersey, I've got one in Vermont, I've got one in New York City. I've got one in the Midwest, and I thought it was going to be easier than it is to be able to navigate with all of our technology. But I will say, I think it is a little more challenging in creative industries because there is that sense of collaboration. There is that sense of standing around the conference table and like fumbling through schemes together that is super important. So we're really having to work with what our workaround is. So we're doing more like offsites where like everyone descends upon, my house together, and we spend like a week working together and doing more things like that. But I do think that's an interesting conversation, because what that does allow for is, like one of my employees, she worked in Florida for years. Cost of living got so high, and there's only a certain amount of salary a design assistant can command in a market, and she wanted to move and be closer to her family and sister in North Carolina, but a rural part. So there wasn't really a lot of opportunities for design jobs. So what this afforded her was to be able to continue to do something that she loved in a place that didn't necessarily have an interior design firm. And she's amazing. Amazing. One of the best finds that I've had. So what I love about this idea of some remote workforce is that we are able to have more access to really amazing talent and allow people to also be able to live and enjoy the life that they want to live. So there's some plus and minuses. We're navigating it. Stay tuned. I'm collecting data points every day. And if anybody's considering a distributed work in an interior design business, call me. I'm just going to get real honest with you. I called my mom before this because I knew that might be one of the questions. And I said, Mom, this question always comes up and I never know what to say. And she's like, why don't you say what people always tell you? I'm like, well, what do people always tell me? And people always tell me that if interior design was to not work out for me, I should go up into stand-up comedy because I'm always able to take any kind of situation or scenario or crisis and turn it into a very funny story or explanation. So I guess, because my branding and my website comes across, because I do have this life coach background and I do have this meditation teacher certification and I am very zen and balanced and spiritual, I don't let that compromise my sense of humor. And so I do always bring in this sense of like fun and play into everything that I do.